Tansin Itutemak, Tiar Wheatley, Nisigasun, Opasquac, Ujanina. Welcome to this special APTN National newscast for November 11th. There was a lot going on leading up to Remembrance Day, especially in Manitoba. On November 6th, the province passed Bill 210, officially marking November 8th as Indigenous Veterans Day. There was also an apology from the Canadian Armed Forces and a celebration for Sergeant Tommy Prince on what would have been his 110th birthday. Here's some reflection from some veterans and their families to all the news. The first annual Indigenous Veterans Day powwow in Winnipeg on November 8th is a way to honor veterans, both those still here and those who have passed on, says organizer Renata McCants, daughter of the late Joe McCants, a well-known man in Manitoba.
We wanted to do something community-oriented, and what better way than a powwow.
The powwow wasn't the only ceremony this year.
This event would not have happened if it were not for veterans themselves.
This is the 31st year the Niiganan Centre in the city's core has held their ceremony for Indigenous veterans. Also this year, Manitoba's NDP passed Bill 210, marking November 8th officially as Indigenous Veterans Day.
Through consultation and hard work with so many veterans and community advocates, I am incredibly proud to say that as of 8:55 p.m. last night, building on a resolution that was passed in 1993, November 8th is now known as Indigenous Veterans Day, officially in law.
Renata McCants is grateful. She's also moved by the gesture of the grassroots community who's given back to those who've served all these years.
I feel like in Manitoba, we already had that recognition in place for a number of years.
Another first this year.
Sergeant Tommy Prince of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, who received numerous awards for his bravery in World War II and the Korean War.
People packed a small community hall in Petersfield, Manitoba on this cool October 25th. It would have been Prince's 110th birthday. Sergeant Tommy Prince Sr. was born here in 1915, and for the first time, Petersfield has come together, along with his family and First Nation, to have a ceremonial celebration. The Anishinaabe man died in 1977 while living on the streets in Winnipeg. He's buried in the city's Field of Heroes. His son, Tommy Prince Jr., says it would have been a special day for his dad.
My father would have been happy, would have been dancing, and just happy with everybody.
Prince was one of 3 Canadians to get both the Canadian Military Medal and the American Silver Star. He earned 11 medals in total from World War II and the Korean War. This celebration of life and achievement is also an acknowledgement of sacrifice, not just overseas, but also what Prince and many other Indigenous soldiers faced while here at home. At a ceremony in Ottawa on October 30th, a tearful General Jeannie Kerrigan, Chief of Defence Staff, apologized to all those who experienced racism while serving their country.
I apologize to every CAF member, veteran who experienced racism, discrimination, and harassment. And I acknowledge we failed you.
Amongst that crowd was retired Corporal Melvin Swan, who served 12 years, mostly as a military policeman.
30 years after the fact, I'm giving an apology. In my personal opinion, my health and body has been affected, as well as my spirit. There's so much distrust. I had nothing for 20 years. No veterans benefits, nothing.
In 1994, Swan won a human rights case against the military. The tribunal ruled the forces violated his rights by not properly investigating at least 8 specific cases of racism.
What goes beyond this apology, I think, is I want to see a spiritual health policy for Veterans Affairs to adapt, first of all, so they can look at our traditional way of life and acknowledge who we are in this country, because without that, there's no truth and reconciliation. I want to see more integration and training for our people with an Indigenous regiment here in Winnipeg.
Something that Justin Woodcock, who heads up the Veterans Program at Southern Chiefs Organization, is also behind. He shared his ideas at a Veterans Summit in Winnipeg recently.
If I have a First Nation veteran that's seeking support for, let's say, PTSD treatment, they might go to a traditional healer on the reserve. The problem is they're not supported for those costs from Veteran Affairs. Now, conversely, if that same veteran were to go downtown to the hospital, all those costs for transportation, the medicines, and the practitioner would be covered by their benefits. I don't think it's right that veterans should be told how they need to seek treatment. I think veterans should decide for themselves how they need to be treated and how their healing journey looks like. And I think for Veteran Affairs Canada to adopt a traditional health policy that supports and covers the costs of that traditional healing would go a long way to healing and supporting our First Nation veterans.
I think Sergeant Tommy Prince is a big example of that racism, you know.
That's Gordon Blue Sky, chief of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation and relative of Prince. Blue Sky is a veteran himself, serving in the U.S. Navy from 1992 through 1998. He's felt the racism firsthand too, but says others before him, especially Prince, had it harder. Prince was the most decorated First Nation veteran of World War II and the Korean War. He was a member of the famous Devil's Brigade, and while he did a lot to protect his country, Blue Sky says it didn't protect him when he came back from war.
Any command he was a part of, he was always second in command because he could never be first in command just because of his race. And so I think that has rippling effects even till today. Even back then, he died in the streets, not being acknowledged to the extent that he should have been. His family had to work tirelessly to get not only his name restored.
I'm still fighting for some recognition that he deserves.
Now Prince Jr. wants to get his father's rank changed from sergeant to lieutenant senior grade, and he's looking to Manitoba's premier for help.
3 times he was given a promotion and he never received it. I have letters here.
The kindergarten to grade 9 school here in Broken Head was built in 1984, and it bears Sergeant Tommy Prince's name. Since that time, many places in Manitoba have begun honoring him, including having a street named after him in Winnipeg. On that street is also the Sergeant Tommy Prince Center, where the Manitoba Indigenous Veterans Committee held their first annual powwow. Amongst the crowd was Chief Warrant Officer Joel Peterson. Just last year, he became the first First Nations man to ever get the senior ranking title. He too reflects on the acknowledgement by CAF for past wrongdoings.
Promising change. And I think we're at a time of not only, when we look at reconciliation and that action piece that I think a lot of us in the Indigenous community have been talking about for so many years, I think that is happening.
A recent change he's also grateful for. He and others still serving are now allowed to wear cultural attire, including beaded poppies. He's also chosen to wear a long braid, which is significant in traditional customs.
I'm happy that I could grow hair and that if I can grow the braid and inspire other Indigenous soldiers.
Being proud of who you are and where you come from. Something Peterson believes that many before him, like Tommy Prince, set out to do all those years ago. Ceremonies happen all over the country on Saturday. The day, of course, is meant to recognize and honor the courage, service, and sacrifice of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people who have served in the Canadian military. Here's a look at an event in Toronto. A special ceremony was held at Toronto's City Hall. Canada's Minister of Veterans Affairs says 12,000 Indigenous people played a role in conflicts in the 20th century that includes both World War I and World War II. A sacred fire was lit during the ceremony, and there was a sharing circle where people spoke about their or their families' contributions. And we hear from a Peguis First Nation man who spent time as a paratrooper and peacekeeper when we come back. Cheskwa. Pitigwe, Pitigwe. Over 40 years ago, he served as a paratrooper and peacekeeper with the Canadian Armed Forces. When the Peguis First Nation member returned, he then enrolled in the RCMP. The soon-to-be 78-year-old veteran is also a Sundance chief. Traditional customs that Floyd Sutherland says saved him many times from the emotional turmoil he faced.
I remember our sergeant saying, "Don't worry about your wife, they'll be looked after."
Retired Corporal Floyd Sutherland and his wife Faylene reflect on their time spent in Europe, as they also share teachings from their Sundance grounds on the Peguis First Nation.
Tree has 13 cloth on there, and we all know there's we talk about 13 moons.
Today on November 10th, it's their 58th wedding anniversary. Within days of their special day, they left Manitoba for the first time as Floyd deployed as a newly suited paratrooper with the Canadian Armed Forces, or CAF.
This is where the white buffalo calf comes in.
In a Sundance, the Eastern Doorway is its own spiritual force.
And you know, like protocol is the way you're given, you have to follow it, eh? And everybody's given a different way of doing things.
The East is also symbolic to them, as it's where he spent his years of service.
These are the driver's courses. These are winter warfare. We had to go up to Alaska.
In November 1967, the United Nations had just intervened in the Middle East with a Land for Peace formula. In June of that year, Israeli airplanes attacked the Egyptian Air Force. While the physical war was over, he was there on a mission, one he won't go into, as they had signed oaths to keep their special operations in secrecy.
Mostly training, mobile command, where we could be anywhere in the world in 48 hours. And your name comes up on standing orders. There's certain things you had to do. Sometimes you'd be going to a different country to go jump, so you'd have to go pick up your stuff and there and then go.
When Floyd joined the military, he was 19 years old, and during a time First Nations people had so few rights of their own in their own country.
From Peguis here, our people need passes to get off the reserve. So when they all started joining up, it was good thing easy to get off the reserve. You're going to sign up. The only jobs were like really hard work, heavy work, lifting and moving stuff and stuff like that.
And then you go do harder work in the military.
No, not really, because you're working on yourself.
On top of the pass system in place, when First Nations did enlist, many were forced into signing over their status Indian rights. However, Floyd refused to sign.
Do you want to sell your Indian rights? We'll give you an extra $1,000 if you sign this paper. At that time, that's a lot of money.
From a young age, though, Floyd always wanted to be a paratrooper, so the first chance he got, he took it.
It's hard to explain. You have to try it.
I'm scared to try it.
Well, it's when you put on that uniform, you change. People come and ask, how do you work in the sweat lodge? I told them, I can't tell you, you have to come and do it yourself. And everything's, you have to work on, actually knowing your strength and weakness helps you to be a better person.
His paratrooping stint ended in 1974 after hurting his leg while in Holland on a mission. They gave him needles and froze it, but the pain was too much.
But they said before I could get out, they made me sign a paper saying that I was okay.
3 days after he came back to Canada, he enrolled as a peacekeeper, and within a few short months, he was off to Cyprus.
There was courses that we had to take before going there and learning how to combat whole different things again, which can't talk about.
Despite all he's been through, Floyd has his presence about him, always teasing and joking, so I figure it's safe to ask him about.
I apologize.
The October 30th efforts by CAF's senior ranking officials to apologize to past and present serving members who faced racism and discrimination. As he battles his own tears, it takes him some time.
Especially when you went to Europe, you went to Europe, and when you got over there, people treat you a whole different. It was a culture shock for me. Because when I got there, people would come and take pictures of us, and if we got on the bus, they'd give me their seat and treated us a lot different. And when we were over there, they used to tell us, Mr. Southern, why did you join the military and come over here? The way your country treated you. So it was good living over there, and we lived on the economy. I lived with the Germans, and beautiful people, and treat us well, and we treat each other well. You know, and then when we come back from Europe, everything just back, same old thing. Like back of the bus, you know.
After Cyprus, Floyd joined the RCMP. Because he had served, he lived at 17 Wing with his fellow comrades. It was there he faced some of his harder days, because by this time he and Faylene were now raising their own kids.
Bringing our kids up in the city of Winnipeg, and we stayed by the base over here. And they went to the military base, schools, and they were taking my kids. They said, we don't want no brown kids in here, so they took them outside and used a white chalk, you know, the old chalkboard, and they're all over their bodies and everything. Finally, my wife said, time to move.
They moved home to Peguis in the mid-'80s.
My name is Ozosko Benesi Mako. I'm from the Elk Clan. Coming back to our own culture, you know, it helped us a whole lot.
Always, you know, always had that throughout my life.
Once we get far as here, we thank you.
While his legacy in the military is important to him, it's these grounds and his family he's most proud of.
I got 5 kids, and I got 28 grandchildren, and come to 62 great-grandchildren. So
your family bloodline's strong.
Yeah, and every one of them wears the poppies, and they asked me to go in wherever they're going to school to go speaking there on Remembrance Day.
He's been a Sundance chief here for 28 years. He's now training his oldest grandson to take over, ready to let someone else lead now. And as he steps into his own elder role, he reflects on the teachings he received.
Our elders from way back always talked about, there's 4 races of people, the red, the yellow, black, and white. They're all given those 7 teachings to learn about love, truth, honesty, respect, courage, wisdom, and humility. When we understand that, we'll respect each other.
7 sacred teachings the Sutherlands stand by, hoping and praying that everyone here in the physical world will learn to follow so that future wars can be prevented. Gananaskamitin, thank you to Floyd and Faylene Sutherland for putting your trust in us at APTN to share your remarkable story of resilience. And a happy anniversary to you both. Time for another break, but when we come back, we take you up north to Life in the Knife, where they held a candlelight ceremony in remembrance. Wow, welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. As we mark Remembrance Day on November 11th, today's photo of the day is from Sandra, a tribute to her grandfather, John Charles Spence of Nisitawayasik Cree Nation. John enlisted in the Army in Brandon, Manitoba, and served as a gunner in Britain and Europe during the Second World War until his honorable discharge in November of 1945. For his dedication and bravery, he received several medals and decorations. John's commitment to his country and his nation was a lifelong source of pride. Thank you for sharing, Sandra. Let us know who you're honoring today. Please email a photo to share@aptn.ca. There was a special candlelight ceremony in Yellowknife over the weekend to honor their veterans who bravely served in the World Wars, Korea, and peacekeeping missions in other conflicts around the world. Our Charlotte Morit-Jacobs was there and files this story.
It's a somber night in Samba Cay, Northwest Territories. A crowd gathers for a ceremony honoring Dene, Métis, and Inuvialuit who served.
So many veterans' graves surround us.
On October 30th, the head of Canada's military formally apologized to the Canadian Armed Forces for the service's history of racist discrimination.
It was a tough time. I served from 83 to 93. There was a lot of racism, and it's one of the reasons why I departed. The recent apology I attended, and it was meaningful to hear the Chief of Defense Staff apologize, and she was very moved by it. I was moved by it, and it's just I saw that as a gesture of reconciliation.
Olone says it's been an emotional week.
I've lost friends, and I think of heroes like Tommy Prince. I served in his unit, but as we're leading up to the 11th, I think about some of the friends that I've lost, and I'll think about them. I just want to say that sometimes veterans can struggle leading up to Remembrance Day.
The universal symbol of remembrance has also recently been expanded to acknowledge diverse cultural identities within the forces.
This year, the Canadian Armed Forces did update the policy on wearing poppies with the military uniform, allowing members the choice to wear an Indigenous design poppy. So for me, I wanted to recognize some of the local Indigenous cultures with a sealskin poppies.
Over 80 veterans have been laid to rest here in the Field of Honor, Lakeview Cemetery, Yellowknife. But for veteran Floyd Powder, he's still working to locate and mark the grave sites of veterans.
I would like to speak about Augustin Nialti-Bolio, a Métis veteran from Fort Resolution who served with the Canadian Scottish Regiment during the Second World War.
Bolio received a headstone 2 years ago. Now his grandkids are honoring his legacy at today's ceremony.
To them we pledge, amid the winds of time.
Northern youth play an important role in remembrance, with cadets helping with seasonal cleanup and maintenance in the Field of Honor.
We currently have candles on all the headstones. It's a very significant thing to honor Indigenous veterans and veterans in general.
Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Kinanaskamat in Charlotte, and welcome back. That's your APTN National News for this Tuesday, November 11th. I'm TR Wheatley, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Creason is back on the desk tomorrow. From all of us at APTN to all of those who've served and your families, including my paternal family, the Saises. My great-grandfather, Edward Thomas Sais, served in both World Wars, and my grandfather, Simeon Sais, who was also a PPCLI. We say, Nana Gomatanik, which translates to let's give thanks in the Cree language. We leave you with some sights and sounds from the Veterans Powwow in Winnipeg. Agase Maga.